Hey there. So my presentation today is on the Quinault Indian Nation. This nation consists of two tribes, the Quinault and Queets tribe, and are descendants of the five other coastal tribes, including the Quileute, Ho, Chehalis, Chinook, and Cowlitz. The QIN is a sovereign nation with their bylaws being established back in 1992 and a constitution approved in 1975. Every year on the last Saturday in March, the tribe holds elections, they accept new tribal members, they allocate fishing grounds, and discuss other current events regarding tribal operations. The Quinault people settled onto the reservation lands after signing the Quinault Treaty with the Washington Territory in 1856. Quinault or Quinault was named after the largest settlement in the area. Today is the present town of Taola. Historically, families would live in long houses up and down the river. They lived off the land and traded with nearby tribes. They fished for salmon, sea mammals, and wildlife. And the Quinault people didn't have contact with the Europeans until 1775. After the trappers, traders, and settlers began to build homesteads in the area in order to tap into the abundant natural resources in the region, a treaty presented in 1886 by then territorial governor Isaac Stevens established a 10,000 acre reservation around Taola. Quileute, Queets, Ho, and Quinault tribes surrendered their land north of Gray Harbor as well. The reservation was expanded to 200,000 acres by President Ulysses S. Grant back in 1873. Between 1905 and 1933, all of this land was issued in allotments. Later, the Indian Claims Commission determined that the tribes in this area were grossly undercompensated and were given 700,000 acres. They weren't given the 700,000. That was originally what they thought the tribes had prior to the lands being taken from them. And so instead they were compensated, both the Quinault and the Queets tribe, and they both received $205,000 back in 1973, which is probably not much considering the history that their tribes went through and losing all of that land. The Quinault Indian Reservation land sees a lot of rainfall, upwards of 80 to 180 inches annually, which is a lot of rain considering the Tri-Cities area only gets about 8 inches, if that, annually. It has swift flowing rivers, including 3 main rivers, the Quinault, the Queets, and the Raft. There are beautiful lakes and an untouched Pacific coastline. Some areas along the coastline still to this day also need permission to public access, as well as for tribe members as well for them to access this area. The reservation sits on the southwestern corner of the Olympic Peninsula here in Washington. The region has many resources to offer, including its vast amount of timber from its conifer forests, many tree varieties, including Western red cedar, Western hemlock, Sitka spruce, Douglas fir, Pacific silver fir, Pacific cottonwood, and red alder, among many others. The animals that inhabit this area include Roosevelt elk, black deer, black bear, black-tailed deer, bald eagles, cougars, and more. Today, about 60% of the reservation's population lives in the community of Taola, which sits on the Pacific coast at the mouth of the Quinault River. The QIN employs about upwards of 700 people, making it the biggest employer in the Grays Harbor County. They focus on education and filling technical positions. They're proud people and have been able to take back control of their own destinies. They're focused on different enterprises, including Quinault Pride and the Quinault Beach Resort and Casino. As of 1999, there were 2,500 members enrolled in the tribe, and the leading cause of death for tribe members are heart disease, malignant neoplasm, cerebral vascular disease, accidents other than motor vehicle, and homicide. The Quinault people are known for their basket makers and weavers. These baskets are made from materials such as reeds and grasses, as well as from spruce, maple, and red cedar trees. The baskets would be used for daily tasks such as holding fresh caught oysters, and would be made with an open weave in order to properly drain the water out from catching the oysters. Linguistically today, the tribe mostly speak English, but there are three main native languages, which are Chimakwin, used by the Quileute and the Ho tribes, Chinookan, which is the Chinook groups use that language, and then the Sahalishan, which is used by the Chehalis, Cowlitz, the Cleets, and the Quinault tribes. These people have always been valued the spiritual connection between them and nature, and they call the Western hemlock the tree of life, as it was used to make canoes. They used the bark for clothing, and they used boards to make wood for housing. The Quinault Indian Nation offers tutoring and scholarship programs to their youth to help them follow through with their education through their local school district, which is the Ta'ola School District. This is offered to students who live on the reservation, but also students who may live in neighboring counties or villages. And educators are encouraged to advocate on behalf of the youth in regards to educational services, the chemical dependency, mental health, and support through juvenile court proceedings as needed. As the students get older, they are also encouraged to be a part of the YOP, which is the Youth Opportunity Program, if they've met other requirements such as passing grade levels and meeting a minimum of a 2.0 GPA. So the STI curriculum, the since time immemorial curriculum that I used, I added 4 different units or lessons that specifically touch on issues relating to the Quinault tribe. The K through 3 question, how does physical geography affect Northwest tribes' culture, economy, and where they choose to settle and trade? That addresses the history of European contact and the depletion of natural resources like lumber in the area because of high economical demand. And for the 4th grade question, what is the legal status of the tribes who negotiated or who did not enter into the United States Treaty? That helps describe the complex relationship between tribes and the United States government, and how things may have changed or stayed the same. The 5th grade question, what are local tribes doing to meet the challenges of reservation life? That addresses more current economic issues and challenges to critically think about things that have hindered progress for the tribes. This helps students to understand why the tribes are facing those challenges and how they might overcome some of these things now that they do have their sovereignty. The last example for the 8th grade unit would be focusing on the General Allotment Act of 1887. The Quinault tribes were directly affected by this act and changed the shape of their reservation and relationships. Having the students learn about specific examples and how this act was implemented definitely helps the students have a more personal connection with the material that they are learning about. It may help them stay engaged in the classroom. And so for the last slide here, I have my resources that I use to learn more about the Quinault Nation. It's definitely a beautiful part of the state with welcoming and friendly people. And I've personally spent time at the town of Taola, which is right on, like I mentioned in the presentation, it's right on the Pacific Ocean where the Quinault feeds into the ocean. And it's just a very beautiful full spot. And I can tell why these people have the spiritual connection with the land and why it means so much to them. So I definitely recommend visiting one day if you haven't. But anyways, thank you for watching my presentation and have a fantastic day.